So why don't we enter into the Q&A and we'll start with the questions about the surah. Or is that okay for happening?
Okay.
Does anybody have? Okay, please. Go ahead.
So there are a few, usually, there are a few interesting points when it comes to the grammar and balagha in this surah. When it refers to وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى, and it's qasam, and you hear a lot when people in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they would say وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ as a way.
Yeah.
So I was intrigued to see that used وَمَا instead of saying وَالَّذِي or وَمَنْ.
Yeah. Well, it is but what they call بمعنى المصدر.
Because
what I was thinking, it is قسم بمعنى قسم with خلق الذكر والأنثى. There is a difference, a subtle difference between ma and man, because وما is مصدر فعل ماضي, while man is مبني على المجهول. So I mean, it's very hard to translate this. So the difference, if I try to translate for the benefit of other people, sort of the difference, the clearest equivalent in English is that difference if I say وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى, it says who created male and female, as opposed if I said what created male and female. But that's not, how do you translate this? It's very difficult. It's far more eloquent in men because it connotes an actual existing source for the action that is far less vague than men. You use men when there is vagueness, and it's like saying whoever did this. So we're saying man fa'ala dhalik. We don't say ma fa'ala dhalik unless you say, if you say ma fa'ala dhalik, then what is it that did that? As if you're suspecting one. But man fa'ala dhalik, you're saying I'm completely ignorant as to who might have done this. Ma, you would use it like when you're suspecting it's something that has done that. So it is a subtle difference, but it's far more precise in this context. What's interesting is that again the qasam billah, which is very unusual for the Quran, and the only convincing commentary on this is that Allah is reminding us in this situation that, because Allah says elsewhere in the Quran that Allah creates you male and female, that it is Allah that decides this. It is not an accident, and it is not any other source, and it is not your amani, it is not your wishes. It is Allah that decides who among you is male and female, and that it is a part of the entire equation for humanity in the same way that night and day is a part of the equation for existence itself. But the last thing I would say, so for some of the what you so for instance, this is I think this is Matridi. It says ما هنا بمعنى الذي فيكون على وجه القسم بالله تعالى فاستعمال غير الذي فكأنه بناء على المجهول, which is basically what we're saying.
Yeah, I felt it had more divinity to the meaning.
Well, yeah, because
Right,
it's referring to Allah specifically.
Right,
It's like
right.
pointing our attention.
And any
It
other
is
action,
Allah.
yeah, and any other action you would say, man, it could be a person.
It could be a person, or it
Exactly.
could be even coincidence. It could be fate. It could be the elements. I mean, it's far more vague. And you use men usually in a context like this when you're really not committed to the possible source of something. It's really interesting. Quran is among the most enjoyable things to read are the books on Balaghat Quran, because they point your attention to these specific references that in which yes any other word in place of this word would not work.
Right, because that was I have another question, but I want to be deferring to any other question. I can ask it in the second round.
Okay. Adil?
Yeah, I just have a question regarding 13, the beginning and the end. Does God play heavy roles during journey towards the end, or is this totally up to one's human being in action?
No, it's not totally. Allah is intimately involved in creation, in ongoing creation. There used to be a school of theology that is documented by Al-Ash'ari and Maqalat al-Islamiyin that believe that Allah creates. It's as if Allah puts in motion creation and leaves it to unfold, but that's not the majority view, and that's not the view I believe on either. Allah is intimately involved in creation, but Allah facilitates what you decide for yourself. I mean, Allah sometimes will intervene miraculously, and Allah will intervene in response to dua as well. But it is like it's like someone, sailing a ship on the ocean, right? Well, where the ship goes, yes, it depends on the sea and it depends on the wind, but it also depends on the captain. It's not that the captain is going to go anywhere without the wind and without the sea, and I'm talking about sailing, not motors, obviously. But you can't say that it's entirely the sea and the wind either, and you can't say it's just the captain either. So it is a totality. And ultimately, Allah facilitates, but it's in the same way that human beings that use the laws of nature to engineer things. Like, people say, well, those who use the laws of physics and biology and chemistry to do things that are not good, they use the laws. The laws were created by Allah, but Allah facilitates the trajectory that you set in motion. Now, it is, if an act of grace, Allah comes and actually prevents you from the evil consequences of what you set in motion, that's an act of grace. But that is an interventionist act. It's not the natural state of things. So it is not obligatory upon Allah to come and intervene every time to prevent. So, for instance, if someone it, they conduct the affairs of their life through being stingy. They don't give, right? Allah could intervene, and in fact I believe that Allah does intervene once and twice and maybe 3 times, or to come and prevent you from the evil consequences of your act. Satr is the same thing. When Allah conceals the sins that people do, you do something bad, Allah hides it. Allah helps hide it. Is this pizza?
Oh, I forgot. It's just in the tray.
Allah allows it to remain, doesn't expose you, doesn't once and twice and 3 times, but then eventually Allah says, okay, suffer the consequences of your action. I actually, every time I see someone who's been do something, get exposed, I immediately think to myself, I am sure this is not the first time they've done it. I am sure that they've done it several times and Allah hid it, helped them hide it. But eventually Allah says, okay, now suffer the consequences of your own actions. And the same, so that's, and it is the wise person remembers that Allah sees and knows and engages in all. If you do something wrong and Allah hides it, the wise person would know that, okay, Allah let me get away with it this time in front of people, but I can't count on this happening again. It is taking Allah for granted to do that.
May I ask a follow-up question? So say that if someone, I'm just making stuff up, say when someone's spiritually suicidal, he just set on the path toward hell, would God actually intervenes to prevent it to happen?
No. I mean, of course Allah can do whatever, but if in the same way that the laws of gravity are the laws of logic, the laws that rule our universe, if you are determined, if a person is determined to be spiritually suicidal, Allah might send them signs, might give them, obstruct them once and twice and 3 times, because Allah is very merciful, so many times to get them to pause and think. And in fact, every person that I know of that have gone down the wrong path, you will find in their lives there were numerous moments where they could have completely changed course. They listen to prayer at some point and it touches their heart. Something happens, they hear a story that scares them. There are constantly, you'll find that there were numerous moments where they could have, are really signs from Allah to say, hey, this is going to take you down a really bad path, pay attention. But they insist on neglecting it. And I can't remember in my life encountering anyone, maybe it was a possible exception of the street children, but even the street children, each one of them there are points where Allah is directly intervening. Like for instance, one of the street children that I remember coming to know, they met a very his name was Hussam, just one of the some very kind woman who was truly willing to help this kid go to school and so on, and then he ended up robbing her. He struggled, I don't know for how long. He told me the story that he ended up just, he doesn't know why he did it. She was very kind and so on. And he just, when she she went to, she invited him into her apartment and give him clothes and food and so on, and then he ended up stealing something and running away. And and I thought to myself, this was not that woman, that was Allah talking to you at that moment. An opportunity, a chance.
Any more questions? Mohammed?
Yes. So my second question was, and also another intriguing, two intriguing parts of the surah so far. One is when you look at the فأما من أعطى واتقى وصدق, and then the opposites.
Yeah.
بخل واستغنى. So استغنى seems like not really true opposite of taqa. When there's just a straightforward meaning. So it was kind of intriguing to see that the istagna, if it's opposite to taqa, it doesn't seem to be an opposite.
No, actually, that's something that a number of commentators point out to, that it could be bakhila wa kafar, for instance. But the fact that it broke away from the muqabala, the coupling and the one and the thing and its opposite things are opposite, actually underscores it's a point of emphasis.
Right.
It is like saying, pay attention here. It is not just an issue of the opposite of taqwa, but it's an independent moral failure.
Right.
That is in itself a point of pause, and that is that this thing. It's not. There's no muqabala bin al-ittaqa wal istighna, but it actually what it does is it gets you to pay attention. Oh, istaghna. So why does it say istaghna in this context, in this situation, in this place? Which is one of the طرق البلاغية in the Quran, that when it gets you into a pattern, like فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان, for instance, in Surah Al-Rahman. But it breaks the pattern whenever it wants to say, "Hey, wake up! I have something really important to tell you." Which is some of the most remarkable points of balagha about the Quran. I mean, and again, the reason it's a kitab marjas, it's that even the maqamat al-hariri, which is as from Nath point of view, if you want to point to the ultimate in Arabic balagha in Nath, not even in poetry, you point to maqamat al-hariri, but Maqamat al-Hariri doesn't even come close to the point in al-Turuq al-Balaghiyya that we find in the Quran. Among them is this.
Yeah. And then the way the tawqid was happening in Inna alayna lal-huda wa inna lana al-akhir. I was always intrigued by this because a way to say it is Inna al-huda alayna, or al-huda alayna.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
To put in
Inna alayna lal-huda.
And then the lam also is another way.
Yeah, it's a ta'keed. It's an underscoring. It's
right.
Like don't think huda is happens without us.
Right.
Or that it is not obligatory. We must, in the same way we created creation, we must give you guidance.
Right.
So that's lam al-ta'kidiyya here.
Three ways. Inna,
yeah.
and then putting alayna or lana first, and then lal huda. It's really amazing.
It's amazing. I mean, whenever you move from tafsir from English to Arabic, it's suddenly you find yourself pausing repeatedly, because transmitting that type of the subtleties of beauty that you find in the Quran is really difficult.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, I don't know if we have in English something equivalent to a way that you emphasize something thrice,
Right.
without saying
In one
thrice.
sentence. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. In one
But
short
that's-
sentence.
yeah, in
yeah.
one short sentence.
Yeah.
It's very profound. I mean, just and at the time, and especially there are of course many imitators after the Quran, but imitators meaning who try to use that method of having an emphasis in a single sentence, but of course it's not even close to the balagh of the Quran. Yeah.
Just a
Go ahead.
question. I remember verse verses 6 and 7 where it's وَصَدْ بِالْحُسْنَى and so and you connected that to Allah showing a person their true purpose, or helping somebody, facilitating work, having somebody go towards their true purpose, and somebody fighting against that. You had mentioned something about people all their lives struggling with themselves and fighting against themselves from what their true purpose is. And so how do we actually go about trying to figure that?
This goes back to when the Prophet and it's a longer hadith about كل المخلوق ميسر لما خلق له. There is no magical way, and here's where kutub when you read in Rawhaniyat, you get where you have actually people discussing it. But there is no magical way, except that the closer you grow to Allah, the more you truly believe and make Allah an active part of your life. The more your dua, when often اللهم يسر ولا تعسر اللهم قدم لي الخير. Often when you are at elementary stage, often people want to do dua for specific things, and they ask Allah for particular things. Allah, I want this. Because in part they don't feel comfortable saying, Allah, just give me whatever is best. Because they're afraid that whatever, and that's sort of a lot of people don't want to admit this, but they don't want to do dua, just Allah give me whatever is best, because whatever Allah might give them, they might not be what they want. But and as your iman develops, the only thing that gives you comfort is Allahumma qaddim al-khair, Allah give me whatever is best. But that's it's a stage. I mean, you get to the point where you just say, I don't know, you know. Now, but part of that is that you also become at peace with the issue of goals in life, that you and listening to yourself. So when you start out this journey, you're very driven by whatever culturally had set your expectations. But the more your iman grows, the more you are driven by the internal voice that you hear in your salah, even in the nature of your dreams change, and you wake up sometimes having dreamt of something that tells you the decision you're going to go and the path you're going to take, and you're not so much the issue of getting the social approval for your achievements don't become as much as a preoccupation as, but it's a process. I mean, among those that like even in the field of fiqh and theology, there are two types that you meet in the field of those who study Sharia or Aqidah or Tafsir and so on. There are those that they are in this because it was that's what the expectation of their family was from the very beginning, and you find that they themselves they walk this path, but you're not sure if they even have the Aqidah. It's like, you know, just because they wear imma and wear a kaftan and imma and so on, and they've gone through all the steps, it doesn't mean necessarily that they've ever paused and asked themselves if this is really their path. But this is what has been done. But then you meet people who actually are going against all the expectations of their family, and in fact are doing what they're doing because out of passion and love and conviction and belief, and their family is completely unhappy with the fact that they're studying to become some expert in Sharia or something like that. And there it is. What is the source of their motivation is that their iman has reached a point of transparency that led them that path, towards that path. But you find that in every profession. It's in the same way that, you know, you even in you know, I meet some students who are truly passionate about the law. It's I you know I even in just encountering them in classrooms, I can't imagine these kids could have been anything but. And these are the kids that you usually end up doing, you know. And then you meet a lot of people who are not even sure why they're in law school. You know, it seems like some of them because there's a social expectation, some of them because they didn't know what else to do in life. And so they reach a point, it's like, well, might as well go to law school. That type of for a mu'min, for a person who has a healthy relationship with Allah, it feeds into their soft transparency, into the realm of their dreams, into the realm of their dua, and the realm of their tawfiq, and their taysir. So that, you know, that's, but I always tell, in the same way that kadhib ala al-ghayr, lying to others, is a moral failure, lying to yourself is also a moral failure. So being honest with yourself is the hardest thing. We all, you know, people say that, but it's truly hard. And confronting, catching yourself lying to yourself, because it is, if you cannot be truthful towards yourself, it's very hard to be truthful towards others. But catching yourself doing it, we don't emphasize this enough in our moral upbringing. Well, I don't think that sidq is possible. Being the Prophet ﷺ is Sadiq al-Amin, and Abu Bakr al-Siddiq was Siddiq because of his sidq. What, in order to be a Sadiq, a person that is truthful, you have to be. I don't know how it's possible without being Sadiq with yourself first, truthful with yourself. You know, Sisi ruined the word Sadiq for me, because now everything, when I said in order to be Sadiq, and then of course Sisi's voice came in my brain, Ana Sadiq Awi, Sadiq Awi. Of course, you know, and he's a really good example of how Yeah, the completely sidq can become completely useless word. Okay?
Does anybody have any more questions?
Thank you.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
My apologies, we didn't finish. Inshallah, we'll finish next time.
Thank you.